Attention shoppers! Tonight on the checkout, Craig brings free-range chickens home to roost. The loving owner's guide to pet stress relief. And Kirsten discovers who's paying the lazy tax.
Shopping can be hard these days. A dozen eggs can cost you anything from $3.20 up to $10.85.
That's more.
The cheapest option are your cage eggs.
It means the chickens are confined to a cage at all times and made to pump out eggs.
But with a bit of clever marketing, you can bring out the farm in factory farming. Ah yes, farm fresh.
Which means cage eggs, which could have come from this farm, holding nearly 1 million chickens in a computer-controlled environment.
What about freshly laid eggs?
Yeah. Yes, freshly laid. Although chickens never lay eggs that aren't fresh. It's not that Farm Pride don't have any pride in their caged eggs. They just ran out of blue ink. But after a backlash against battery hen conditions, today there's been a proliferation of more expensive eggs because we've been nicer to the chickens.
There you go. Too hot.
Today, free-range eggs make up about 40% of sales, while barn-laid eggs make about 10%. And that's set to rise. Woolworths claim they'll no longer stock any caged eggs, none at all, by 2018. We'll see if Jamie Oliver can hold them to that.
A little bit drunk from the pub.
But as we search for these ethical eggs, are we getting what we're paying for?
When we shop, we rely on simple terms like cage-free or barn-laid or free-range. But if you're buying barn-laid eggs, you probably want your barn to look like this one from a Channel 9 advertorial paid for by the egg company.
Well, Ross, your chickens are certainly making a lot of happy noises.
Rather than this barn, filled by Animal Liberation Victoria. Now, that place has since been closed down. So when you're going egg shopping, you can't be expected to go to every barn and farm and check them out. So who can you trust? Where are the chickens?
I just thought you wanted a barn.
The question of who to trust is being debated right now as the ACCC takes 2 egg producers to court. Why are you crossing the road? I still don't get it. Anyway, one of the issues the ACCC are looking at is how much space the free-range farmers are giving to the chickens.
The model code for domestic poultry says that the outdoor stocking density should be no more than 1,500 birds per hectare.
Which is about 1 chicken per this much space. Coles has recently suggested moving to a free-range standard of 10,000 chickens per hectare. Which is 6 2/3 of a chicken per this much space. Don't worry about the 2/3 of a chicken. Whereas a lot of free-range farms were working on 20,000 per hectare. Which is 1 chicken per this much. But all these figures are based on the space outside of the barn. The chickens get returned to a barn at night, and the ACCC argues that some of the chickens have been trained not to go outside at all. So you have to look at the inside stocking densities too. And in the case of Snowdale, a Western Australian egg producer being taken to court, the ACCC claimed there were 140,000 chickens per hectare, which is 1/7 of the space of that. So if the barn looks less like this and more like this, would those people paying more for free range consider these chickens to be well treated? Now you might be thinking, didn't you say there was some kind of national set of rules that would sort all of this out? Well, yes, state and federal governments and all their experts got together and came up with a model code, but then they didn't really bother turning into law, so it's more just a guideline. And by the way, it's got lots of loopholes and people don't really listen to it. Brilliant! So while they put in this bit,
For layer hens, a maximum of 1,500 birds per hectare.
they also put in this bit.
Any higher bird density is acceptable only when regular rotation of birds onto fresh range areas occurs.
And that's been used to water down the 1,500 bird requirement. Here's how the Egg Corporation publication summarised it.
The code essentially allows unlimited stocking densities as well as beak trimming.
That is absolutely outrageous. They call their magazine Extra Extra. Oh yeah, I guess the other bits are bad too.
So instead of effective national regulation, we end up with a hodgepodge of self-regulated accreditation schemes with their own claims and standards. Remember the Egg Corporation?
As well as being Australia's best source of egg puns,
They also provide the most common form of accreditation for free-range eggs, Egg Corp Assured.
used by all of these farms. But they also say that the code allows for unlimited stocking densities, and they do allow beak trimming. And both of the egg producers being taken to court by the ACCC for their substandard conditions were Egg Corp Assured. Those cases are still before the courts, and it doesn't mean that the same concerns are true for all brands that use those logos. However, if you're worried about low stocking densities, then with Egg Corp Assured, you shouldn't necessarily feel assured. So here's where it gets weird, but not in a Corey Bernardi kind of way. Coles is pushing for a standard of 10,000 chickens per hectare. And even though this isn't as strict as the 1,500 chickens per hectare, that code isn't being enforced. So if Coles can actually enforce their lower standards, it'll actually be a step forward for the industry. What we really need to see is what these numbers look like on a farm. And luckily some of the egg producers that have 10,000 chickens per hectare have chook cams. This will be so exciting. I'll admit those pictures didn't look too bad to me, but only some farms even have chook cams, and many farms can't be seen by the public. And according to this whistleblower from the egg industry, no, not that one, this one.
A lot of free-range people don't like to let the chickens out of the barn because they think it wastes their energy, and they do less laying. There's some farms that only let the chickens out of the barn when they think that someone's watching.
And in the ACCC's case, they claim that there were no chickens outside during several of their visits. To find out what these standards are really like, I'm going to have to go undercover. You stay here. You might stand out on a chicken farm. First, I tried to sneak into one of Pace Farm's free-range facilities. How'd you know? I think they might be onto the fact I'm not a chicken. How come none of the chickens are out today?
Oh, they get let out at 12 o'clock.
The chickens were let out at midday, and they were roaming on other occasions we visited the farm, which makes you wonder why they seem so paranoid. How many chickens you got here?
Well, I'm going to say that you're trespassing at the moment.
Oh, OK. Well, you want to come and tell me over here?
What I'm saying is that can you leave the property?
Yeah, I'll leave the property.
OK.
Do you want to tell me how many chickens or anything? I'm not.
Nothing to do with you, mate.
It's got nothing to do with me. A position they have maintained, because our letters requesting the actual stocking densities of this farm and others only elicited a letter from their lawyers that ignored our questions and trotted out this standard line: we're Egg Corp Assured and we comply with the model code. Well, that's assured me. The code essentially allows unlimited stocking densities. Another of the biggest producers in Australia is Farm Pride. Their chickens were out roaming when we visited.
You're not really a chicken, are you?
No, I'm definitely a chicken. I know what happens to roosters in this industry. What's your kind of stocking densities here per hectare?
No comment, mate.
Well, you can't tell me the stocking densities?
I want to.
It's not a secret, is it?
No, it's available on our website.
Yeah?
www.farmpride.com.au.
Except it wasn't available on their website. And Farm Pride didn't reply to us when we asked them for their maximum stocking densities for free-range hens.
So as an egg buyer standing in a shop, what should you look out for? If price is your only concern, you are going to buy caged eggs. But this is what you're supporting. And before you get too judgmental about those buying caged eggs, even Animals Australia concede that our current levels of egg consumption can only be met with factory farming.
However, if you want to buy free-range eggs that come from farms that are not too squeezy, the RSPCA logo requires free-range stocking densities of 1,500 chooks per hectare, or up to 2,500 if they're rotated. They also allow beak trimming in some cases, arguing that it can be necessary to stop hens pecking each other, sometimes to death. But if you want even stricter guidelines that ban de-beaking, yes, I know you do, then look for these logos. Humane Choice, Australian Certified Organic and the Free Range Farmers Association also require stocking densities of between 750 and 2,500 chickens per hectare. Other than that, you're on your own. And we're not saying you shouldn't buy free-range eggs, which is why it would be nice if there was a national standard for the treatment of free-range chickens. One that was not only clear, but enforceable. So you could be confident that what it said on the pack is what was happening in reality. Because we all want happy chickens. Something to eat? Ooh, unhappy chicken.
Vanish Napi-San Oxy Action. Old packaging,
New packaging.
same active ingredients, same strength, same size, same instructions, and a lid to every wash. The difference?
The new lid is bigger.
This pack will last for 45 lids.
This pack will last for 30 lids.
Napi-San Oxy Action.
No wonder you call it Vanish.
If retailers were like Google.
Hi, I'm...
Bored? Yours? On top of the world?
I'm looking...
Through you, for a miracle?
No, sorry, I want...
To break free. Queen, Freddie Mercury, watch the video on YouTube now.
No, I'm looking for a white shirt for work.
You feeling lucky?
What? No?
We have over 431 million white shirts to choose from. Try this Reebok shirt, ma'am.
Can I try that one?
Maybe try this one first.
I don't want the sponsored shirt, I want that one.
Hey, have you seen Huffington Post's 10 most epic white shirts?
No, I just want that shirt.
Okay. Would you like me to remember your details?
No! Thanks.
Do you want to tell everybody that you know that you just bought a white shirt?
No! Do you want a white shirt? You look like you want a white shirt. Do you need miracle diet pills to wear your white shirt? Have you seen BuzzFeed's most outrageous white shirt? Oh.
Try it for cuck white shirt now.
Ah!
If there's one thing Australia's good at, one area in which we dominate, it's being lazy. And if there's one industry that knows it,
Insurance.
it's insurance. It's a real hassle trying to decide which company to go with in the first place.
This one covers hail damage, but that one has a lower excess, and that one provides a free hire car if you have a prank. I never want to have to go through this again.
And insurers know that when they send out their annual renewal notices, most of us won't bother checking whether we can get a better deal. I'll open it later. We just assume that if we've been with the same company for a while, they'll look after us. Where would we get an idea like that from?
Loyalty's a wonderful thing.
We like to reward your loyalty. The longer you remember, the more you can save.
What they really reward is switching.
Switch now for a free GIO Platinum upgrade. Switch to NRMA and we'll beat your car renewal price by 10%. Switch your comprehensive car insurance online to save $100.
While excluding their loyal customers from those deals.
Offer does not apply to existing AAMI car insurance policy holders.
What's more, they often slug people who don't query their renewal notices with a lazy tax, an invisible surcharge on consumer apathy. Could someone pre-chew this for me?
Take James here, for example. He's a lazy tax dodger.
Hey.
Sorry, someone who dodged the lazy tax.
That's better.
NRMA quoted James $360 for his insurance renewal.
That's $92 more than they were going to charge a new customer online.
Bill's Suncorp renewal notice was $66 more than a new customer, who'd also get a $50 discount online. And Greta's renewal notice from Allianz was $77 more expensive than if she reapplied online. What a bunch of... souls.
The good news is it's usually pretty easy to get insurers to waive the lazy tax. All it takes is a phone call.
When Frank's QBE premium jumped to $612, he gave them a call and...
Then they knocked $52 off. And later, another $70 when I told them I was leaving.
When Mark's Yui House Insurance jumped 12%...
I told them I'd got a cheaper quote elsewhere, and without even asking to see it, they gave me a loyalty discount.
We asked each of these insurance companies...
Why don't you offer existing customers the best possible premium on renewal notices?
And UE said,
it's a loaded question.
Yeah, we do that. But then they said,
risk and profile changes may result in a further premium adjustment.
Yes, if the customer's profile changes sometime between picking up the phone and threatening to leave. Suncorp admitted,
we often have special introductory offers in place to attract new business.
But added,
it's about a lot more than the price.
They say service is important, and maybe so. But when it comes to insurance, I think money's pretty important too. And NRMA denied everything, saying they offered renewing customers the best possible premium based on their risk profile. Is that true, James?
No.
And it's not just insurance companies that charge the lazy tax. Phone companies do it, internet companies, banks, gyms, electricity and gas. Virtually all ongoing service providers do it. Just can't be asked going through the details.
So the message is clear. When you get a renewal notice, shop around. It could save you hundreds.
I'm Jo Utricolo from handlemycomplaint.com.au, and if I could say one thing, it's that complaining in the right way can help you get what you want. Act quickly, complain when the problem first arises, or set yourself a goal of doing it within 2 days. Check online for other people with similar problems. The ACCC's Consumer Guarantees Guide is a great place to start. Even if you're angry, drop the emotion. Communicating in a way that's respectful, factual and authoritative will affect your chances of succeeding. If you can't keep your emotions in check, ask someone else to complain for you. Ask to speak to someone who's authorised to give you the yes you're after. Customer service and complaints are often handled by different departments, so use the word complaint. Personally, I'd skip the phone. Complaints in writing are often considered more official, they're less likely to be misplaced and more likely to get you a response. Finally, remember outcomes are negotiable. You don't need to accept the first offer, but being a bit flexible yourself will save you time and hassle. With a little bit of patience, organisation and knowledge, you really can get what you want.
As a loving pet owner, I know that all pets are anxious, aren't you? And that's something we should all be anxious about. One of the best ways to relax is to take a bath. Gerald can relax in the single tank Hydra bath because he doesn't know I had to take out a personal loan to buy it. And I can relax too, knowing that even though $2,300 seemed expensive, it was actually designed for the budget conscious. Even though fish are always in a bath, they're not always relaxed. That's until Bubbles gets a few squirts of Pond Care Stress Coat, the only marine water conditioner with the healing power of aloe vera. I'm no relaxologist, but $17.79 seems cheap for science. Oh, Millicent, I can feel your tension right here. One of the relaxiest things is aromatherapy. I use Fuzz Yard Naturals because they can be sprayed directly onto my dog to make him feel calmed, soothed, and if he's overcalmed, uplifted and refreshed. I spray Percy with Pluck No More for relief from anxiety. It's homeopathic, so $34.99 seems cheap for a lack of science. Shh. Relax. It's clear that Stefan is carrying all the worries of the world. He needs the kind of heavy-duty serenity you can only get from having a piece of elastic wrapped around your snout.
Do a 180 with the elastic, bring it up over his nose, and it's that simple.
The acupressure is pure bliss. And given how calming one piece of face elastic can be, imagine the soothing powers of an entire cloth over the face. Calming caps help relieve a dog's anxiety in high-stress situations, like being muzzled by underpants.
Yes, it looks like your dog is wearing underpants over its head, but it's a good product.
If they weren't $45.36, they'd be priceless. Life, oh life, oh life. Telling your dog you're pregnant can be as stressful as not having a $2,000 bath. But now, the Tell Your Dog You're Pregnant CD and book takes the stress out of telling your dog you're pregnant.
No guarantee that your dog will be better prepared for the arrival of your new baby.
I'm pregnant! Is what I'd say to you if I was pregnant, which I'm not, obviously, because... After a hard day desperately trying to relax, my dogs need some pampering, and no one knows pampering better than Dogue. Strike the pose. The Dogue Country Retreat Boutique Hotel and Day Spa for Dogs offers yoga and meditation to combat dog stress the Dogue way. Hi, yes, I'd like to make a reservation for Gerald. $80 for the night? Yes, I think he would like a Brazilian. Do you mind if he wears his underwear on his head while he has it? Dogue.
Hello. F you. That's what insurance companies tell loyal customers through their higher premiums, as Kirsten's shown tonight. But according to Greg, that's not the only thing to watch out for. He bought some
real income protection insurance.
And it was indeed quick and easy to set up. But after that, Greg didn't pay much attention to the direct debits or the paperwork that they sent him, as you don't. But a couple of years later, when Greg started thinking his insurance premiums were a bit steep, he discovered that for 2 years he'd also been paying for the final expenses insurance option. Now that provides extra cover if you die of a heart attack, which Greg almost did because he specifically remembered saying no to that option. Now, the company checked the tape of the phone call where he got the insurance and...
They said, yes, we have listened to that audio tape and it is very clear you said you didn't want that final expenses insurance.
But when Greg asked for his money back...
He blamed it on me. He said that I should have checked the paperwork more closely and because it's been so long, then no, I shouldn't get the money back.
Now, the consumer law guarantees for services actually don't apply to insurance contracts, but you've still got consumer rights. And in insurance, when things get desperate...
If you have a problem, if no one else can help...
That's when you turn to...
Shane Tregellis, the Chief Ombudsman, the Financial Ombudsman Service.
And that's exactly what Greg did. The Financial Ombudsman provides an independent dispute resolution service that's free for consumers and has the power to make binding decisions. The service is useful because, as Shane says...
Many people do not know much about financial matters.
They even offer you tips for managing your emotions.
We consider it very important.
It was only after realised that Greg was going to set...
Shane Tregellis, the Chief Ombudsman...
on them and...
10 minutes of some pretty forceful negotiations and commentary from me.
The Real agreed to give him his money back. So good. Game over.
I then just ripped into him some more in a very polite but firm way.
Well, you can understand his frustration, but Greg's right. It is important to keep that ripping in polite. As Joe Yuchukalo says, you'll get better results if you do. But if you're an insurance customer, watch out. The lazy tax takes many forms, and as a great consumer advocate once said...
Anybody in this country doesn't minimise their tax, they want their heads round.
Speaking of Kerry Packer, remember the one thing this bloke said about unclaimed money and getting it back via the Money Smart website? David does.
I went onto that website, and what did I find? I had nothing, unfortunately. But Kerry Francis Bullmore Packer had a lazy $2,760 unclaimed in a Westpac bank account.
They didn't come much money smarter than Kerry Packer. Thanks, David.
Maybe someone should tell James or what's her name. And if you do, ask them if there's a finder's fee.
Next up, it's Coles again. Their FUTube entry this week comes courtesy of Steve and his partner.
We recently bought this sweet and sour chicken meal from Coles.
You might have said out of desperation.
I wouldn't say that. Steve looks nice enough. One of the reasons Steve bought that is the Australian-made logo. But like all good checkout pedants, Steve read the back of the pack, which explains...
Made in Australia with Australian chicken. Rice from Thailand, pineapple from China and Indonesia, vegetables from China.
Steve asked Coles what was going on, and they explained that the product is Australian-made because...
But it contains 47.6% local ingredients of water.
Well, there you go. Seems Coles Rice uses the Australian-made absorption method. To be clear though, Coles hasn't actually done anything wrong here, in terms of labelling at least, because...
Australian-made means the product's been substantially transformed here, and that 50% or more of the cost of making it was incurred here, whatever that means.
But their explanation, well, it didn't leave Steve 100% satisfied. He thinks the product should be renamed
Australian tap water with a hint of sweet and sour chicken.
Finally this week, to the mega corporation that makes money by commercially exploiting Aussie kids. No, not that one. That one. Isabella got in touch about...
The Little's Pet Shops that I bought with my pocket money for $15.
The packet says digital pet inside, and it says the pet is free.
Use the game to scan your token and unlock your virtual pet.
And when you scan that, all you get for free is a still image of a pet in an album. If you want a digital pet that, say, moves, then the easiest way is to buy a huge twinkliest heap of bling for $20.99 in real money. Now, this sort of thing is very common, especially with apps for kids. But it's not just kids. 77% of App Store revenue in Australia is in-app purchases made from within free apps. The disappointment left Isabella speechless. But at least the Littlest Pet Shop characters are asking the right questions.
What should we think? Do I stink?
Yep. Telling kids that they'll get a free digital pet to lure them into in-app purchases, that stinks.
This is all a scam.
The ACCC's website's got useful advice on preventing in-app purchases or challenging them if necessary. And Isabella, since it's illegal to be false or misleading about the nature of services or the price, maybe you could take your digital pets for a walk to the ACCC.
Please don't go.
But it's an important lesson, kids. Be very careful online, especially with in-app purchases, or else your parents might make you do an FUTube video too. Good night.